Welcome back, everybody. How's everybody doing? I'm doing okay. I had made a patch panel video a while back and had a disastrous time with the TIG welder. And since then, I've upgraded some tools and got some better stuff. And in this video, I will be redoing that patch panel, cutting out all the sloppiness from the old welds, and trying it again. So this is what I have for sheet metal in the shop. It is a piece of 16 gauge. So it's a little heavier than the actual old school fender I'm working on, which is 18 gauge. But I think I made it work pretty good. If this were to be a more professional approach, it would have to be 18 gauge against 18 gauge. However, I'm just an ogre with some tools. So like I said, I think I made this work pretty good. One thing I'm not too sure of is after I wire wheel this to clean off all the rust, am I supposed to wipe this down with anything before I weld? If there's a chemical or something I'm supposed to use, or anybody knows, just throw an answer down in the comments, because that's something I absolutely do not know. Here I'm just taking the rough cardboard pattern I had made, and I'm going to transfer it to some butcher paper, which is a little easier to deal with. I added 3/4 of an inch extra material where I'm gonna fold it over for like the hem of the fender. And I think I added a 1/2 inch on the sides, wider than my 2 control points, which show me the width of the cutout in the fender. Basically, it's just a little extra material because you never really know. Make it a little bigger than you need and trim off what you don't as you go. I do want to take a moment to just say, like, this is like an attempt for me to try and get something done. This is not a tutorial or like the end all be all best way to do any of this. I'm just trying to figure out stuff as I go and get something that's better than it was when I started. And that's kind of like my little rule in the shop. It's just kind of make it better than it was. So, like I said, this by any means is not like some crazy tutorial, or I don't even really want it to be viewed as a how-to. It's more just me filming what I do, and I kind of explain what I do a little bit to just explain how I think. I'm sure there's better ways to do stuff, and I know there's people that do this for a living that are probably looking at me like, whoa, no, dude, that's not the path. But for me, it's what works. So here I'm just transferring the lines with the combination square. I set it to the depth I want and I just slide it down the edge with the Sharpie. Makes a nice straight line at a consistent depth. This is actually a skateboarding obstacle that I'm using as an anvil. It's some heavy gauge drilling rig pipe that I had put together to turn into a slide rail for skateboarding. But hey, it works like an anvil really well. It's nice and heavy, and it gave me a nice curve when I hammered on it. Again, I'm just trying to get the basic curve in the metal to match the fender. Nothing crazy here, just doing it the old way with a hammer. I constantly go back to this piece of rod for like a guide for the to bend the hem over, and I'm not even sure if it works or if it's the right thing. I got it to kind of work as like a weird kind of dolly, like a curved dolly, but in the end, the bend was in the wrong spot. So I think it would be safe to say it actually didn't work, and there's probably a better way to bend that hem over, but I don't know how to do that. So in the end of the video, you can see that the hem I bend is actually like a quarter inch longer or lower than it should be. And that becomes a problem because once I bent everything and had it curled all the way around, I really couldn't move that line at that point. So I ended up just welding the piece in, even though it's not 100% correct. I just got to a point where I got sick of fighting it. I think I moved this clip into the wrong spot. because I feel like I cut this out before I traced the patch panel from the back. But for some reason, this clip is after me cutting out the patch panel. So, yeah, not sure what happened there. I think that's just an editing mistake on my part. Yeah, here you can definitely see the patch panels are not cut. So somehow I uploaded these out of order, and I don't know how to change that without starting over. So just bear with me on that. There you go. Here we go. Now we're back in proper sequence. It'll start making sense from here, I promise. I took a lot of time to get fitment correct, or as close as I could get it. Definitely, I definitely need to keep practicing that. And there's a lot that's off camera there because I feel like it's just the same thing again and again and again and again and again. So, yeah, I try to get all my gaps as tight as possible, but like I said, I could definitely use some more practice with that. Here I'm trying to use this rod as like a buck or like a dolly. I think it's called a buck. Um, yeah, it works a little bit. It does move a little here and there, and I don't actually get the hem to start exactly where I want. I wasn't like deep enough into the patch panel piece. Overall, it worked decently, but like I said earlier, there's probably a better way to do that, and I just haven't gotten that far yet. Here I am checking fitment and trying to adjust that hem for like the 100th time. And like I said, I never got it. Got close, but it's definitely out a little further than it should be. Something like if this wasn't a practice piece, that's something that would have to be addressed further. Here's the fitment in real time, and coming up, you can watch me wreck that seam with a TIG welder. I ended up turning the welder down about 5 amps because I blow out a nice hole right here. But I actually don't turn it down until I go through and weld it after I'm finished doing all my tacks. I don't know what took me so long because I end up burning quite a few other holes into the panel, especially the old metal. The old metal really just disintegrates. For the amount of times I have to regrind my tungsten, you'd think I'd take my tungsten grinder out and learn how to use it. I just got one in. I've never even taken it out of the box yet, so I just do the old grinder trick and keep everything on the same angle while I spin it. Seems to work pretty good, but I definitely want to learn how to use the tungsten grinder. Seems like a better tool for the job. This is the first round of tacks. It's pretty rough, but you know what? It's a lot better than the first video where I couldn't even get a tack to stick. So I feel like I'm improving a little bit. If anything, I would say I used too much filler rod and stacked up a huge bead that was unnecessary and just led me to have to grind a bunch down. Um, so that's something I'm going to have to figure out how to do, is use a little less filler and still get a nice connection between both pieces of metal. Even though I try and bounce around, I still got plenty of heat distortion, some serious low spots that were definitely like a 16th lower than the rest of the field. I wire wheeled it just to clean it up, and then put a little wax and tar remover just to clean off any weird stuff off the metal, because I'm about to prime this. The primer is literally just a guide coat, so I can file and sand this and see what's really going on in the panel. Like I said earlier, seems like I use too much filler. Got a lot of big boogery welds. And you can see where I blew through the old panel. And that's something I'm not going to address that here. Like I said, this is just a practice panel, so I'm trying to work with the welds that I have that actually did work. Filling big gaps like that, that's a whole nother ball game. At this point, I got real smart and realized, hey, why don't you grind the welds off the back instead of hammer and dollying this thing into oblivion and never getting it right? Okay, today I had a little technical difficulty and I accidentally deleted about 7 or 8 minutes of footage. So from here, what you're going to see is me cleaning up the back of the weld a little bit, just flattening it out. And then you will see where I decided to stop today after some filing and sanding on the top side of the weld, just to see how it would be to knock it down and how it would be to just kind of dress it up a little bit. This is mostly welding practice for me, so I'm not really even concerned with like, oh, it's perfectly ground down and everything looks right. I know it's not going to look right. It's mostly just me going through the motions. So here's where I decided to stop, and you can see my horrible hem gap at the bottom. You can see the blowouts of the old panel, and you can see all the weld boogers that I didn't knock down all the way. And then finally on the right there, that's the part I didn't even attempt to weld because the gap was so bad. But that's where I got to today. And compared to last week or the first video a couple weeks ago, like I said, I feel like it's a great improvement for me. So thanks for watching, everybody. Catch you on the next video. Have a good night.